Hello. So today we are talking about Spotify and writing playlists. So if you don't have Spotify, definitely download it for this, I guess, tutorial. Um, or you don't have to download it, just go to the online version. I can put a link to that in the down bar for what I use, but you can access Spotify just on the internet, and sometimes I like to do that because I don't really want to download it. But it is really nice to download because it's kind of like iTunes. So, anyways, Spotify. What are we doing here today? So, over the past couple of months, as I've been writing, I have kind of started using Spotify more to find music and to make playlists and write to music. I know some people don't like writing to music, but I found that writing to music is really helpful for me because it kind of keeps you on track of the vibe you're going for. And it also just makes you more excited when you can find songs that really work for your novel. So, I'm going to show you what I do when I use Spotify to work on my playlists. So I'm going to really quick show you an example of playlists. We have the Sarah J. Maas attempt, which is very long, and you have to know a lot about scoring. So when Sarah writes, she basically finds themes and scores from movies and instrumental tracks, basically, and then she'll put that instrumental track on repeat as she writes a scene, and thus her playlists are very long, but they have really cool music on them. So that's one attempt where you can just have instrumental music playing in the background. I have written like this, and it is really helpful and really cool. But the downside to this, I guess, attempt is that you do have to know a lot about movie scores and you have to be okay with searching for movie scores, whereas my other way is a little bit easier. So then we have this, which is the Ready Player One official Spotify soundtrack, I guess. And most of these are songs that are included in the book or they're just written at the time of the book, which is the 80s. Anyways, and so it's more like vocal type tracks and like pop music and regular type of music rather than like a theme or a score. And so that's another way you can do it. You can just find, normal pop music to write to or to have as like a companion soundtrack. So I have done both, obviously. The first one, this is back when I was writing Regnant. I have like a whole list of just scores that I found that are like part of my book, basically. And I have two parts to this. I think they're for two separate characters, I really don't remember, but I have these, which is like all score music, and then the other one, which I'm more proud of, which I'm still working on, is more just music that fits the aesthetic of my novel. And the content of this novel has changed about 2 or 3 or 4 times, but I like all these songs so much that I just want to keep them together because it's the certain aesthetic that I'm kind of going for. And I will talk about this a little bit more in a second, but this is basically just a list of a bunch of like pop songs that kind of give off this aesthetic of girls and like girl power. And so if you're really interested in girl power, like you should listen to this playlist because it's pretty cool. But this one, I haven't organized it all. It's just kind of like I add as I find more music. And so sometimes when I'm bored, I just put it on shuffle and you can like really just feel the aesthetic of like girl power. Even though there are some songs by guys on here, I feel like all of them are just very like girl power. Anyways, so now you're probably wondering, Jenna, this is great, but how do I do this? Because I don't know how to do any of this. I'm going to start off with the idea of discovering music because I was talking to Laura about this and she's like, I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you find all these albums and like scores and just random things? This is what my Spotify thing looks like right now. But it comes with a lot of time. You just have to be patient and you have to be willing to listen to a lot of songs because some scores are just really stupid and you don't want to listen to them, but some of them you wouldn't have listened to, like Van Helsing. I would never have listened to it. I think Sarah put it on one of her playlists and you just listen to it and you're like, wow, this is like a great score. But you don't want to buy it, so that's why you use Spotify because if you had to buy all of the scores, it would be very expensive. So some of these scores, like Ori and the Blind Forest, I got from Paige at Enchantology. She has a lot of really good score music on her page. Some of this you find by following people, some of it you find by just like following links. So if you have a soundtrack, like let's say you really like the Catching Fire soundtrack. So you go to the Catching Fire soundtrack and you're like, wow, this is great, but I want more. So then you go to James Newton Howard, the composer of that, and you kind of look at related artists. And here, I mean, obviously you can get more James Newton Howard music and other scores that he's done, which is really great. But if you go to related artists, you can get even more composers. Some that you probably heard of, like John Williams and Danny Elfman, but some of them you probably never heard of, like Brian Tyler. Who's Brian Tyler? I don't know. Oh, he did Now You See Me Too. Okay, these look cool. So then you kind of just listen to those and you go through that, and then you keep clicking on related artists until you kind of find what you're looking for. And it takes a long time, and you're never going to be completely satisfied. Like, I'm always looking for more score music. But if you kind of, like, start somewhere where you know you like the music, like a Game of Thrones soundtrack, it's much easier to find more things that you like than just being like, I don't know, give me a score. So if you're like, wow, okay, but, like, how do I choose what to use for my theme? Say I'm doing, like, a score, and I need one for my scene. How do I know if it's the right one? I can't tell you that. I don't know, because it kind of depends on you. But I do know from experience that you just gotta listen. And sometimes you'll know. Like, you'll be thinking of a scene, and you're like, I really need a scene that has, like, I don't know, some, like, woodsy elements, and it sounds like a fairyland, something like that. If you kind of picture scenes from movies that you know that have, like, a similar vibe or a similar aesthetic going on, sometimes it's easier to, like, take scores from that and be like, well, I'm just going to borrow this because I know it works for this scene. It can work for my scene. That's super helpful. But really, like, you just got to listen. And it's not fun at first because you're like, there's so many scores and I just want to write a novel. Why is this so difficult? But once you get going and you get, like, a bunch of scores down for your scenes, it's actually really cool when you listen through and you're like, this is literally what my novel sounds like. And it's very, very great. Okay. So, kind of switching gears from scores, we're going back to the aesthetic playlist, or the pop playlist, whatever you want to call it. How do we get here? Because this is a little bit different from just finding scores. I feel like scores, you have to listen to the songs a lot, whereas with these kind of playlists, it's more finding the right artists. And this playlist is mostly centered on girls, so it's been a little bit difficult to find, like, just girl artists. But if you really want to know how I do it, it's basically the same concept as finding scores. So you go to somebody you know. Let's go with Little Mix. So you like Little Mix and you're like, okay, I like Black Magic. I like some of their other songs. What else can I do with them? Go to related artists again, and you'll see if you're looking for just girls, it's kind of hard. There's a lot of boys, so just kind of ignore the boys. But you can click on just basically anybody. Cher Lloyd is a good option, so you go to Cher Lloyd, and I like some of these songs. Okay, you add them, go to related artists again. And if you keep doing this enough, you will eventually click on people that you have never heard of but look really cool. For example, Pixie Lott. Pixie Lott is a cool chick. I don't really listen to her that much, but I know about her. And if you look at some of these related artists, you're like, oh, Diana Vickers, who's that? She's also really cool. But basically, just keep clicking through related artists, keep listening, and that's all the advice I can give to you. If you want to know how I can actually, like, pick a song to add to the aesthetic, when I listen to music, I don't really listen to the lyrics that much. There are some songs that I do add because of the lyrics, like Girls is definitely one that I add because of lyrics. But most of the time I just add it because it sounds like my book, which sounds weird, but that's kind of how I play it. And I'm like, oh, I really want Feeling Myself by Nicki Minaj because I feel like that's something that all my girls in my book would really like to listen to. Or that's kind of like the poppy sound that I feel like would be playing on the streets of my city, you know, which sounds weird, but it's true. And so basically you just have to listen again, and you add things that kind of sound similar, but also they can be totally different ideas and different songs. Like I have the piano version of Elastic Heart, but I also have No by Meghan Trainor, which are like totally opposite songs in my head. But they work because they're both by girls and they both like have this cool like girl aesthetic, I guess. And so you just kind of like keep adding and eventually you'll get this collection of songs that you're like, I don't really think they work together, but somehow they do. That's kind of how I feel about all this music. Like, it really doesn't make any sense together, except that they're mostly by girls and it's kind of poppy and it like sounds cool. I guess. And it's really just, adding the songs that you want to hear and making this big playlist that'll get you excited about writing, because that's what this is all about. Like, this playlist, whenever I listen to it, I'm like, yes, I just want to write a book about girls who are awesome. So, yeah. Basically, if you don't know how to use Spotify, and you want to, like, make a playlist, there's going to be little dots on the right. So if you click that, you can go to this and go add to playlist, and then you can just make a new playlist or add it to one that you already have, and then it'll be added to the playlist. If you want to use these are what I use to keep track of the songs that I really want to buy or that I really like. And so if you hit this, then basically it'll just add it to your albums or your songs. You can click whichever one you want. And it's kind of just like an iTunes library. So I have a bunch of songs. These are all the songs that I've saved. And yeah, so hopefully that helped you. If you have questions, just comment with them. And hopefully I will be doing more of these writing things soon. And I would love to hear all of your playlists. So definitely let me know if you make one. Okay. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!